I think we have a wonderful speaker here in Peter, and why don't we give him a warm welcome.
Well, thank you, Fred, and I'd like to also thank Brian for having me here today. You're always a great crowd. And I have basically good news. Of course, there's also a lot of problems with Connecticut, and we'll get to that too. But whatever I leave you with here today will be fleeting. So one thing I want to point out to you is that we have an enormous amount of information, reports and surveys at CBIA.com. That's CBIA.com. And what we also have on there is I do a blog called the Gioia Report, and anything that's topical in the economy or on public affairs, I'll probably have some sort of posting on that. So, where are we right now? Well, we're probably on the cusp of what might be one of the best economic years for the U.S. in 50 years. We are going to have a really, really good 2018 at the national level. The problem for Connecticut is that Connecticut will not fully share in that. Our growth rate has been tracking about half of the U.S. growth rate. We tend to get dragged along with better performance on the U.S. level, and a lot of that has to do with firms in manufacturing and financial services and bioscience that sell outside of our borders. They're going to have plenty of customers, and they're going to be buying. They're also going to be buying internationally, because finally we have growth across the world that is better than it has been in several years. Germany is growing moderately strong. They just had their lowest unemployment rate in 20 years. Japan is back and growing. China's doing well enough. India is growing. Even Brazil, that was in rough shape, is finally back in the black. So, there's a lot of opportunity for companies to sell overseas as well as across the U.S. When you look at potential for recession, because we've been in a long recovery. It's been a slow one, a weak one, but it's been long. Moody'sEconomy.com recently gave the risk of recession over the next 12 months at 5%. That's the lowest rating they've ever given. They probably can't give 0 because their lawyers would get on their case. But this is really certainly positive news. I think in addition, what's another factor that's driving it? And that's energy prices. If you take a look, yes, energy prices have gone up to about $65 a barrel, but there's a ceiling on that. And that's due to the fact that even at this rate, you're going to start to see some of the shale oil producers start to come back online. So the likelihood without a major international incident of us going above $70 a barrel is slight. And if you take a look at the history of U.S. recessions, sometimes they've been caused by stock market issues or housing bubbles, but the bad ones have always been exacerbated by energy price spikes. And that doesn't look like it's anywhere on the horizon for an extended period of time. And the difference between the price of oil now and the price of oil at the beginning of 2014, when it was $104 a barrel, adds $1,000 worth of purchasing power to every American family on average. That's a lot of firepower. That's like a major tax cut. And so that is certainly the case. The other thing is we have a federal tax cut. I know there's been a lot of talk about it, but remember the base declaration has gone up. The rates across the board have gone down. Yes, there's certain limits on how much you can deduct of your state or local. But on balance, I think that, the vast majority of people will make out with this. And certainly businesses will, and not just corporations, but pass-through entities too. But on the corporate level, dropping to 21 from 35 is a significant change. And, there was some TV interviewing, these executives are not going to give the money to their people or their companies. They're going to pocket it, give it to their shareholders. That hasn't been the case. since it's happened. I mean, we see company after company like Webster give bonuses to many of their employees. Comcast sent me an email about 2 weeks ago. They're doing the same thing, a $1,000 bonus for their employees and a pledge over 5 years to invest $50 billion. And there are company after company after company that are doing similar. And so this is going to be highly stimulative to the U.S. economy going forward, certainly for next year and probably for the year after. So there's a lot of activity that's going on, again, at the national level that's good. What's going to be a challenge to the national level is a challenge here. How do you find the people? The unemployment rate's likely to dip below 4%, maybe even get to 3.5. That is going to make workers scarce. It will boost their incomes because, if they stay where they are, they'll certainly get raises, but if they jump, they'll probably get double-digit raises. So there's going to be a lot of activity there. And finally, you're going to see more workers in the driver's seat in terms of their own economic future, which hasn't happened in a long, long while. In addition, I think that we have a situation on the national level that, more and more innovation is happening every day. And, the U.S. is, again, a leader in innovation. If you get down to the state level, there's positives. Our manufacturers are doing great. I mean, if you talk to any of them, they're doing good, they're doing really good, they're doing fantastic, they have their best year ever. But they can't find people, which is a huge, huge challenge, okay? Talk to a lot of other industries that are doing well, and this is certainly centered on aerospace and defense. Pratt & Whitney, Sikorsky, and Electric Boat are all doing great. But remember, they have between them about 1,000 subcontractors in state. And they're all over the place in state. And so there is a broad-based lifting of boats when those three companies do well. We're also likely in this area to get some benefit from Brexit. That's been playing out in a long way, but there are companies that want to be, that want a base that is an international capital. London did that for a lot of companies for a long while. Not anymore. If you want to have that big base, you're probably, in many cases, going to move to Singapore or to Greater New York. Greater New York is probably more likely to get the benefit than Singapore. And Greater New York isn't just Manhattan. It's northern New Jersey, it's Westchester, it's Long Island, and it's Fairfield County. So I would not be surprised by 2020 that we see an additional 5,000 high-paying jobs in financial services move into our state, which otherwise would not be in our state. So that is going to be in and of itself, I think, a powerful addition to our state. But our state has huge problems. Fortunately, in the biennial budget, the legislature decided they needed outside input. And so in the budget, they created a commission on fiscal sustainability and economic growth, which is headed by numerous CEOs from around the state. It's headed by former CEO of Webster Bank, Jim Smith, and Bob Patricelli, former CEO of Women's Health USA. They've had several meetings, and their charge is to produce a report by March 1st. So they're moving. And in that budget, the legislature decided that that report would get converted into a bill, and that bill would have an up-down vote of the entire legislature. And so they are looking at, some potential, tough proposals. And we need tough proposals because we do have an economy that's underperforming, and we have fiscal problems that are both short and long term. With the underperforming Connecticut economy, probably the greatest thing that I see, and I will will say that the legislature, especially in working together on a bipartisan budget, did a good job under tough circumstances with their conclusion in October. But one thing they did not address, and in fact, I haven't heard any legislator talk about it, is a jobs crisis. When you have 25,000 jobs that are good jobs, I mean jobs paying over $15 an hour with benefits that are unfilled, over half of them have been manufacturing, but also in the building trades, also in trucking, also in nursing, also in areas such as actuaries, commercial loan officers, salespeople, sales managers that are unfilled. That's not good. If we had 25,000 more taxpayers, our state budget would look a heck of a lot better than it does right now. So that has got to be a critical job for our legislators, to provide the incentives for on-the-job training and companies to hire people who may not have the skills but may have educational attributes. And we have to look hard at our educational institutions, particularly our community colleges and community technical colleges. And, you know, to his credit, Governor Malloy did increase the number of training slots for manufacturers within that, but if we quadrupled those slots, we still wouldn't have enough. When you can only have one apprentice to one journeyman in a lot of the building trades, when they're willing to do 3 or 4 apprentices, that's nuts. And there are issues on the national level we need help with here. Our congressional delegation has got to go out and outreach to the other congressional delegations of the Northeast states and say, immigration is not working for us. If you go to Canada, you go to Australia, and you graduate with a STEM degree, you get that green card stapled to your diploma. We need to do that. Now, the shift from the family-based immigration to the skills-based immigration is good, but they're not having enough slots. And what does this mean for Connecticut, and what does it mean particularly for Fairfield County? If you take a look at the census going back to 1980, all of the growth in population in Connecticut, all of it comes from immigration. Which is the county that draws the most immigrants in the state? This one. You take away immigration, and Fairfield County gets stuck in neutral. So it is essential that that gets reformed too. And reform has got to be reform with growth. And so there has to be some real changes that happen. I think a lot of the other things that are happening on the federal level will be very, very beneficial to the economy, but this is a big one too. So they just can't ignore it. Our immigration issues are not the issues of Florida and Texas and Arizona and California. They're very different. And so we have to make sure that we're getting that job done. When we train engineers at UConn, and they're foreign students, and they can't work here, and they want to work here, that's terrible. And so we have to fix things where we can fix them. And it's not all on our state legislature. There's some on our congressional representatives too. But these things have to be addressed. Because when I look at Connecticut, I see enormous economic potential. But I also see us with policies that drive citizens out of the state, including young ones, not just the rich. I see us with, you know, enormous capabilities to grow the economy, yet at the same time I see us taking decisions that sometimes stymie the confidence of businesses to invest here. So there has to be changes. And one of the biggest challenges on the state level is unfunded liability. If you take a look at the teachers' retirement, state employee retirement, and state employee health care in retirement, it's a $60 billion issue on a $20 billion budget. We can't just say, oh, the contract isn't up until 2027, let's sit on our hands till then. We've got to take action prior to that. You know, we can't be, we have to be active wards of our fiscal future. So, you know, overall, like I said, I think on the national level and international, we got some phenomenal growth. Overall, we're going to get more growth because we sell into those areas. But we're not taking care of enough business on the local level that could really have us growing. If we were to grow at 3.5% GDP and we were to fix the jobs thing, we could have 40,000 jobs a year. Do you know where we are right now on year-over-year jobs? Anybody have a guess? Okay, as of the November report, we're at minus 700 jobs after a 2016 of minus 200 jobs. And the fact of the matter is we're not like getting rid of people. We're not replacing retirees. And so the demographic challenges are really there. We've got to have solutions that deal with it. So with that, should I take questions now or wait till the end of the
We
period?
have time for questions.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions right now? Okay, sir?
What's your view on residential housing?
It's struggling along. I mean, it took a phenomenal hit during the Great Recession. It's not in every year. There are areas of bright spots. I mean, up near me, you know, you're trying to buy something in West Hartford, they're doing real well. You know, so there are localized sectors that are doing real well, and there are areas that are still sucking wind. You take a look at Eastern Connecticut because of electric boat hiring so many people. Their housing, which had been moribund, is now starting to have some serious pickup. So, you know, there still are challenges with that. We're not doing as well as many other parts of the country because they're growing faster than us. And you need growth and you need bodies. They're getting better at keeping people home too in order to have customers. Other questions? Sir?
Two questions. One, in light of the GDP growing nationally, where do you see interest rates going?
Yeah. Well, you know, the Fed's already targeted that they're likely to have 3/4 point raises during next year. Don't be surprised if it's not more.
Second one, in light of the fact that Connecticut is losing people, what could they do to turn that?
Well, one of the first things you need to do is have enough awareness in our high schools and colleges that there are jobs in Connecticut. You don't have to move to North Carolina to find a job. You don't have to move to Texas to find a job. There are jobs here. And that is probably the first thing that we could do, the easiest and cheapest thing that we could do to let kids know that that's the case. Second, you know, like I said, you got to have some immigration reform. Those kids who are getting educated, who are foreign students, got to be given an opportunity to stay here. Foreigners are 80% more likely than native born to start companies, which results in them being a net hirer of native born citizens. You got to deal with that. Sir?
How about infrastructure? I mean, you know, but I don't see the growth that we need in able to finance our infrastructure.
Well, the main thing is we don't have the finances to do the infrastructure we need. I mean, the Special Transportation Fund is effectively broke. And whereas that is important for the entire state, it is critical for this area of the state. And it's sort of sad, too, because, you know, I've had some presentations from DOT, and they do have plans, they already have owned the right-of-ways to about 9 miles of I-95 from New Haven to Greenwich, where they could expand the road. They think if they expand the road there, they could increase rush hour traffic speeds by 25 miles an hour. Okay, and they also have plans for I-84 towards Stanbury and I-95 east of New Haven, which could have similar benefits. We need to get that done. That's going to produce a lot more economic activity. And, sir, and then back to you.
Just one more question
Yeah.
on that. Railroads. My understanding is the newest bridge on Metro North was built in 1908.
Yeah. Well, you know, you need money. If you have a special transportation fund that's broke, you either got to shift resources, which I think they should at least look at. You know, right now the sales tax for auto purchases goes to the general fund. Why not to the special transportation fund? People talk about tolls, but that's a 5-year out proposition. They're probably going to need to raise the gas tax. You know? If you're going to get it done, you know, but part of it is going to be, you know, an ironclad promise that A, that does not get rated, and B, that money actually goes to these high priority projects that will boost the economy and boost activity. Sir.
The $60 billion in unfunded liabilities, I would propose is higher than that. It's a few $1 billion here and there. We haven't worked on it. It's impossible to fund that amount of money. We cannot do it, but our legislature does nothing to solve this problem.
Well, first, there have been efforts to solve the problem, okay? But they haven't gone far enough, okay? They've had 2 CBIA agreements that have changed it somewhat. You know, they've restructured the debt on that. But the critical thing is, the benefits that were proposed were way too rich. And there's got to be some changes for that for people who have not yet retired and on the healthcare part, which gets virtually no funding.
Cutting the benefits for new employees would be great. The $60 billion cannot be paid. It's impossible for this state to come up with $60 billion to pay the benefits. The legislature has to work on the current employees, not push it off to the
Right.
future like it was just done.
I don't disagree with you on
The
that.
year before and the year before. Our legislature is failing this state across the board. And I'd be interested to hear what others.
And I hope you direct some questions to them. Ma'am, and then sir.
One more question.
Okay, ma'am.
In light of the fact that GE has moved out of Connecticut to go to another state, and then Aetna is thinking about moving out, or maybe some other employers are thinking about. So what did the state do wrong, and what can the state do to retain and to attract more of the good employers to stay?
Well, okay, first, how can you attract more employers? If we filled every job that's out there that needs to be filled, and we had another 10,000 trained, skilled people waiting for jobs, companies would pour in. Okay, that's one thing. So very doable. You know, you wouldn't have to give them money for that either. Okay, on the GE thing, GE was probably going to leave anyway because they wanted a sexier location than a suburban campus. However, you know, comments that we made, particularly from some politicians, exacerbated that move and made that move a lot faster than it need be. You know, they could be waiting 5 years out before doing the move. And that's not smart. Aetna, a long-term thing. The good thing you may not know is CVS, which bought Aetna, has said that they're committed to staying in the Hartford area. Okay, well, thank you very much.